No, it doesn't matter. You can't hurt it.
I'll now call this regular meeting of the Jacksonville City Council to order. I want to welcome everyone who's come to the meeting tonight, and also those that will be viewing the meeting on G10 television. To begin with, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Dr. Angela Washington, followed by the invocation by our City Attorney, John Carter. Please rise.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, you've given us one more opportunity to stand before you and give thanks. Thanks for our city, thanks for our mayor and council, and thanks for our community in which we serve. As we enter another hurricane season, we come before you and ask your providence and grace and protection to keep us safe, to protect this fragile coastal area in which we live. We give thanks tonight for all those who on our consent agenda who will be reappointed to serve on our various commissions. We give thanks for their service of taking their time and their talents and contributing those to our city. Bless each of us as we continue to serve, that our goal will always be to serve you and to serve our fellow citizens. We pray for our military who are serving us here and around the world, for our protection, for their families, who I'm sure many are anxious as they serve in very dangerous places. And as always, give your guidance and your direction to our mayor and to our council. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Council, you have a copy of the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I would entertain a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, next, we have the public comment section. And I'm going to ask the clerk to set the clock on this for the 3 minutes. As we stated, that's the 3-minute limit on the speaking at public comment. And I'll call the first person up. And when you come to the podium, if you'll please give your name and address to the clerk, we'll be very grateful. Raquel Painter. And if you would come to the far podium. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Raquel Painter, president of United Way of Onslow County. I'm at 403 North Bayshore Boulevard. So I'm here this evening for a grant application that United Way has submitted. Through some procedural errors, I want to resend the application that I submitted back in February and submit it for general funding for consideration for the City Council. The funding request is for $100,000. It's for the renovation of the United Way's new building, which was donated to us graciously by Brigade Boys and Girls Club and, of course, the Volunteer Fire Department. The building is the historic town center for the community, the first town hall, the first police station, and the first fire station. And they're currently the longest running fire department. So we are renovating that building, keeping its natural historic content to it, but it's going to serve for two things that are expanding in our community. One, our CHEW program. We are at capacity right now. We're servicing 937 children each weekend. That's with 2 meals, 2 dinners, 2 lunches, and healthy snacks. With the current state of our community right now, we plan on doubling that capacity. So we need that new location for that. But most importantly, for our volunteer resource center. As we know, it is hurricane season. It's been a while for us, knock on wood. Hopefully it's a lot longer. But during the last one after Hurricane Florence, our community wasn't as prepared as we should have been. When we're talking about nonprofits, government officials, the residents knowing where to go, This new building will provide that resource for us. It'll help us bring in those nonprofits coming from out of town, Samaritan's Purse, Red Cross, you name it. We had about 20 organizations come in, and there was no place to put them. So we want to make sure we're prepared this time around for our community. There was over 2,000 residents that had their homes damaged that the Long-Term Disaster Recovery Alliance helped. We're currently under 200 right now. So we are still servicing people from Hurricane Florence. The Long-Term Disaster Recovery falls on United Way. Onslow Strong Disaster Recovery Alliance came out of an alliance between the city and United Way to bring that alliance together. We currently have 38 nonprofits, county and city officials on board with that. So we just need that place to do those coordinated efforts for not only volunteerism, but more importantly for the disasters that are to come. Questions?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Mr. Ray, if you would make sure somebody gets up with Ms. Painter about the process that we're using for that. Next, we have Ms. Melanie Marcette.
Hello, council, city manager, and city attorney, and the rest of the CLJ. Thank you for hearing me out. I just have a statement I would like to read. Discrimination, the unjust treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of ethnicity, age, sex, or disability. Discrimination in any form kills a person's morale. It affects their physical and mental health. It does not matter if it's housing, work, or public spaces. Whatever the laws, policies, and procedures that are set in place, it must be fair and equitable for all. From there, we must make sure that all who are responsible for upholding these laws, policies, and procedures do so by making sure that the same standards, consequences, expectations, and procedures are applied fairly and equitably. Diversity, equity, and inclusion training should be mandatory for all levels of leadership, from the president down, and it has to be a priority. Just because you may be able to look into a room and see a diverse group of people does not mean that inclusion is taking place. It does not mean that all who is in this room is being held to the same standards. It does not mean that the same consequences and expectations are being applied. It should never be okay for anyone to have to put up with any form of discrimination. And to be clear, just because someone lives near, hires, or selects a diverse group of people does not mean that you are not practicing discrimination, that your biases and your prejudices are not getting in the way of how you view others, and that you are not racist. Having a deeper understanding of the community you live in and work in, and making sure that everyone has a voice is being heard, is crucial when dealing with systemic racism and equality. We must respect all colors of the rainbow. Thank you for listening.
Next, Mr. Billy Sewell.
Council and staff, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Billy Sewell from 205 Aldersgate Road in Jacksonville. As the Chief Volunteer Officer for the New River YMCA and in leadership with our opportunity and public-private partnership with the New River YMCA Aquatic Partnership, I just wanted to come give you some brief updates about where we are in the process. And as we have asked in our partnership that the city and the county and the school system to vote over the next 2 weeks as we are able to give the participation agreement to the legislature. So with that being said, some good opportunities that are for our city and our county residents and all our school members and school students. The Onslow County swim teams, Onslow County school swim teams will be able to use the competition pool at no charge for practice and for swim meets. All Onslow County second graders will be able to participate in water safety YMCA certified swim lessons free of charge. City and county recreation departments and parks department may utilize the pool at no charge for up to 2 hours per week for specific programs. The Senior Olympic Games will be able to use both pools for free of charge during their specific events. City and county recreation summer camps and field trips will be able to use for specific times free of charge. Both pools will be open at least 3 hours per week for all Onslow County residents to use at designated times free of charge. Both pools should remain available for public use every day that we're open, at least 363 days a year, for a $5 to $8 daily rate, or if you become a YMCA member as an individual, for as low as $1.30 per day per person. And it can also go up to a $69 family rate, so very economical. Newarville YMCA will operate the pool facility and hold the city, county, and the school systems harmless. As we have discussed and talked about, it's a $14 million public-private venture with $3 million each coming from the city, the county, and the school system. And just as a note, the city of Wilmington pays the Wilmington YMCA to operate 2 public pools for $110,000 a year. We will have our Newarville YMCA capital campaign in 2024 to raise at least $1 million for different programs in our new YMCA at 1940, along with our pool operation expenses that we have mentioned. We will hold everyone harmless on any of those costs or those liabilities. And as we've talked about, it will be at 1940 Gum Branch Road, right next to our new 13,000 square foot facility. So with that in mind, thank you for your ear and thank you for the opportunity to listen this evening.
Thank you. Former State Senator, Ms. Clark. Caber Clark.
Mrs. Clark?
Mrs. Clark.
She She passed.
Okay. Ms. Jane Schachner.
Jane Shermer, 402 Warlick Street, Jacksonville, North Carolina. I want to talk a little bit about the furtherance of what you might not know that the YMCA has brought to the community in the past 3.5 years. I will say that in the aquatic venue, there's so many community health and health programs that we have vetted. There's 2 programs through the CDC that only YMCAs can send out to the people in this country. So there's highly vetted CDC programs that will also take place in that pool, along with any of the veteran services that we'll provide too. So, but just in a real quick synopsis, I'll tell you a little bit about our journey. A lot of people don't know, they see Cheney, but they don't know that we're not at Cheney. We are out. I will tell you, so far with Onslow County Schools, not through COVID funding for remote learning or anything, our YMCA has found, independent of the school system, $1.6 million year to date that we have found and pushed back into our schools. We just partnered on a $50,000 drop into OCS for a STEM robotic competition at Sturgeon City. We had 21 elementary teams and 3 middle school teams there, 400 parents, kids, students, etc. And I was proud to say that we sponsored all 21 of the elementary teams. We bought expensive robotic, the bricks and everything. We're going to go back, and that's a winter semester. Michelle Shadwick and I have already partnered. We're going to roll it out again in January 24. You also might not know this, but any child in Onslow County that is in a foster home, we serve them with no monetary understanding or expectation. The other thing that we do that you might not know, we have it's a highly vetted program out of Minnesota, Lutheran Social Services, and this will be our 4th year. We select the children. They are sent to us through one place as a partner, the school social workers, the counselors, 50 children every summer for 1 week. We have to find $25,000 a year through philanthropic dollars. This will be our 4th year, so we will have dropped $100,000 into the city and the county children for a camp that recognizes their traumas, adverse childhood experiences. We have a licensed clinical social worker on site from opening to the end in case a child is needing some LCSW services during the sharing time and some of their stories and their journeys. We also do military family retreat in November. We had 77 military people, families. We took them to the elite YMCA of the Triangle Camp Seafair. We hosted them for 2 nights at no cost. And that was amazing. That was for November military family. So I share that because those are the nuggets that I don't think you see. It's outside the walls. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that information. Thank you, Ms. Sherman. Okay. All right. Thank all those that came and spoke at public comment this evening. Now we will go on to the adoption of the minutes and the consent items on the agenda. And the minutes are from the June 6, 2023 workshop. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. All right, next we have the nonprofit funding for FY '24. It's item number 19. I'll take a break. I know somebody probably may want to leave. I'll take a few seconds if you wanted to. Okay, we'll stay. All right. Tracy, you're up for bat.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Thank you for having me here today. Just wanted to come and provide an update on our nonprofit grant applications and the process. As you all know, that nonprofits provide services in a cost-effective way that the city itself may not be able to provide. And the planning process included a virtual workshop that was held in December, application deadline held in February 2023, and the applications were reviewed by staff and the Neighborhood Improvement Advisory Committee. So we have 2 funding sources for nonprofit funding. One was the CDBG funding that include $50,000 in our annual action plan that was previously approved by council. And we also have general fund that was also provided by city council. With the new budget that we recently approved on June 6th, then $60,000 were added to our funds. Also, we had award allocation to another outside nonprofit, Brigade Boys and Girls Club. So we had a total of $155,000 that was provided to our nonprofits. As you can see, they requested a little bit over $400,000, and we went through, and with all of our processes, we recommended these nonprofits to be funded. So we are asking the council to approve the review committee recommendations for fiscal year 24 for the nonprofit funding.
Council, any questions of Ms. Jackson?
I have a question. Ms. Jackson, in light of Ms. Painter requesting new funding with an application, would that be applicable to now to be added as an addendum?
At this time, the application process closed in February, so her application was not recommended for funding. At that time, the only construction applications that we had was for CDBG funding. We did not have one for general fund funding for construction and capital. So her application was not approved for CDBG funding. It was not approved because it did not qualify based on our parameters.
Mr. Ray, so in light of Ms. Painter coming tonight to take advantage of something that wasn't available when she initially applied, is that something that you will be able to look into and possibly modify depending on the criteria?
Mayor, so part of our discussion when we go to our post-budget retreat, the funding process is going to be one of those items. We'll get with Ms. Painter, we'll get the application. We can bring it back to have as part of that discussion to get into that format. Just like what Ms. Jackson said, the process there goes to a full review panel, and for council to allocate those dollars, it would have to be outside of that amount, but we want to look at that process for funding. So definitely we can bring that back as part of that discussion on the post-budget retreat. And we'll get with Ms. Painter to find out the dates and more information about their process. Yes, ma'am.
Any other conversation? Okay, thank you, Tracy. Council, you're being asked to approve the nonprofit funding for public-private partnerships and community development block grants for FY24 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed. Okay. Brings us to item number 20, and this is a discussion item. This is a partnership for affordable housing, and Tracy is still up there, so I guess you're going to present this one. Go right ahead.
Mayor and council members, wanted to bring before you discussion items for a chance to partner with a nonprofit housing provider, a developer, East Carolina Community Development Incorporated. They are planning to bring 24 units of supportive housing to our community. They are applying for North Carolina Housing Finance Agency SHARP funds for $10.5 million, and also North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency for $2 million. The total project costs approximately $12.5 million. We're asking for council to allow us to apply for the $2 million from the North Carolina Office of Recovery and Resiliency. The city will manage this grant and use the funds to pay eligible ECCDI construction costs. We will act as a pass-through for that money. Other than, yes. And just wanted to show you where the proposed project will be. It's going to be on the existing Phoenix Park complex, and a rendering of what's going to be constructed on that parcel.
Ms. Tracy, where is this exactly?
This is at Phoenix Park
Well, I'm just trying to-
Apartments,
Gun Branch Road.
100 Phoenix Park. It's off of Gun Branch Road.
Oh, okay, I'm just looking at, oh, I see, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Seen it from this angle.
I see
Gotcha.
Mr. Keith Walker's here. Did you want to, could you add anything?
No,
That's fine.
up here.
Up here.
The only other thing I want to add to that, there is, according to the A4 guidelines, about 15% admin fee that would be charged to the project to help cover your costs to administrate the program. And we would add that to that cost as we put in our full application.
Thanks, sir.
Mayor, as part of this process, also at the post-budget retreat, the council is going to review our housing development plan. So we talked about how we're going to be a partner with housing moving forward. Mr. Walker has brought a project to us that gives us a unique opportunity to add to our existing housing market and for us to be a partner. I would almost call the city a silent partner, even though it's going to maintain some staff time to help navigate through. But the partnership here gives Mr. Walker and his team the opportunity to add to the housing base that we have and for us to utilize our skill set, which happens to be being a government agency, to assist in that. And you can see, as Ms. Jackson pointed out, his team has already secured one level of funding. This would be a second level of funding for supportive housing. When we talk to council at our post-budget retreat, we're going to talk about the different types of housing that can be beneficial within the community and then how that opportunity is allowed to us through our partnerships. There's another project that came to us Friday from Onslow Community Outreach to do a different type of outreach effort that we plan to bring that to council at our July 18th meeting. And so you'll see between these two opportunities, the city comes in as a partner through Ms. Jackson to be able to facilitate their search for funds to provide different opportunities. We saw this with the property that the project that James Maid's team's working on, Mr. Walker's team, and now through Onslow Community Outreach, their team, multiple opportunities for us to participate in projects that can provide, as I said, different levels of housing throughout the community. So I think you'll see that when we lay out the options for the city to be successful. These are the kind of projects that we as staff encourage, and we're going to continue to encourage with the blessing of council.
questions, Ms. Jackson?
Yeah,
Okay.
Ms. Washington does, I do too. Go ahead.
Ms. Jackson, and Mr. Walker is here as well. How many projects, Mr. Walker, have you completed thus far for the city of Jacksonville?
7.
So this would make number 8.
This is the sister development to the Compass Point supportive housing development, which is 8 units over by Wellington Road apartments.
Okay.
Meadowsgate apartments, sorry.
Okay. So you're not asking for any other resources, no land, no money from the city. It's just basically to enter.
I reserve the opportunity to come back and ask.
But for right now, you're just asking for the partnership.
That's correct.
Okay.
The question I had, I just did a simple math. I divided the 12.5 million by 24, and I came up with $521,000 per unit. Is that correct? Mr. Walker, I divided
Could you
12.5
step up
million
here,
by
please?
24.
Mike, please.
We're not catching you on audio, so.
I've never been known for being quiet speaking, so this is great. How can I help you? What can I answer? Questions can I answer?
Ask him a question.
Answer.
I just divided the $12.5 million that you're looking for total, and that we'll have, and then divided that by the 24 units, and I came up with a little over, almost $521,000 per unit. Is that reasonable? I mean, I know it's more than just housing, because you're providing some sort of services. I was wondering if that's why it's so high.
Right now, the actual building cost all in for doing affordable housing apartments is coming into north of $350,000 a unit.
Okay.
Plus, if you add in supportive, it's 2 years worth of operating support to that. That's what that number,
Okay.
it's escalated a little bit more.
I was just curious. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I don't really have a question, but I'll just make a comment that I'm very happy to see supportive housing in the lineup. We have a lot of folks who are homeless or at risk of homelessness, and many times, buzzwords are flying around and everybody gets excited about affordable housing, but affordable housing is not attainable for a lot of people. Affordable is a very relative term. So I just want to say thank you for working in the supportive market to help, prevent and remedy homelessness in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I say one more thing? And I know there's been a lot of talk about affordable housing in Onslow County and Jacksonville. East Carolina Community Development was started 30 years ago. And we started with one development in Morehead City, North Carolina, and our second development was actually in Jacksonville, North Carolina, at Phoenix Park number 1, which is the sister project to this one right here. We've enjoyed a great relationship with the city, and we look forward to continuing that relationship and bringing in more sophisticated financing structures, which we can talk about in the future, of how we can build more affordable housing, which limits the exposure to the community. And you're not asking for tax base to actually do this, using tax credits as well as bond financing to expand our developments. So thank you, appreciate it.
We couldn't do this without you, and we appreciate your efforts, and we thank you for your interest in doing so.
Thank you, Keith.
Mr. Ray, could we possibly have some kind of workshop in the future so we could get a better understanding of supportive housing, and I think you probably wraparound services in some cases, and
Add that to it.
Mayor, and that's part of our discussion. So just like we're Keith and CJ and James, and then if you think about what Mike Nareski's been talking to us about with multiple needs within the community for different groups that we're trying to provide that assistance to, that's part of our dialogue, and that's one of the things that Ms. Jackson's working on in terms of that housing discussion. But I think it is good for us to be able to have that workshop that'll give us a more open dialogue, and I know that Keith's been more than amenable to providing us some of that knowledge. I think we have good partners that Ms. Jackson has available to bring in and have that dialogue with council that are really, as we go into a housing initiative, we're going to need that knowledge. So, yes, sir.
because my past in working in the veteran space, I've seen veterans who were able to get 100% benefits, but because they had other issues with mental issues, PTSD, or substance abuse, they weren't able to stay in those houses. And the Veteran Administration always talks about ending homelessness, but homelessness is the end process of something else that enabled them to become and be in that issue altogether. So if you don't have those other services in place, a case management, you're going to have bigger issues at the end.
With that being said, we are in Onslow County with a program called Healthy Carolinians, and that works with veterans as well as people who are on Medicaid, and it's a pilot program which was funded for the last 3 years, and what it does is it provides services to the individual. It's Medicaid dollars, but it's not for medicines or treatments. It's actually to provide them services to help them stabilize their life so they can actually stay in our units, and there's counseling involved, but that counseling is done through organizations like Trillium or their VA counselor.
Ms. Jackson, and I don't know if you would be able to answer this question or if it's going to be more so to Mr. Ray. It seems like since the beginning of this year, the council has been presented with many issues regarding housing in the city of Jacksonville and becoming a housing authority. And I do know that prior to you being named the director of neighborhood improvement, Ms. Lily Gray was the director under a different title. However, along with her expertise, she could rely on you to handle some projects because her hands may have been dealing with other issues. Well, with that being said, since she has retired and you have taken over as director, how seasoned is...
Is that mine?
Yes.
Sorry, little entertainment, a little extra entertainment. Apple Music decided it wanted to play. Thank you.
I see with individuals like Mr. Walker and with Mr. CJ and Mr. Mays coming with the various different projects that it appears that your office is going to be growing. And how well seasoned are your employees within your department that you are able to delegate specific critical thinking, high-level tasks that you do not necessarily have to watch and oversee, but because of their expertise and their experience, they are able to carry out, and you can lean on them the same way Ms. Gray was able to lean on you to carry out her duties, but knew that you had a plethora of experience and could carry out, and she could assign some of those projects to you.
Well, currently in our department, we have of course, we have a gap with my 25 years, and of course with Ms. Trafton, she has 5 years of experience, and that is a gap. With Lily and I, we had about a 5-year difference gap between us. So it can be challenging because the knowledge, skills, and ability is a potential for Pam to learn, but as far as the day-to-day, there's some high-level regulatory compliance, and of course the financial piece of accessing our grant funds through our integrated disbursement information system. We call it IDIS. So it's kind of difficult to be able to navigate through that, and of course the development of all of our plans that we have to do before HUD, and they approve all of those plans. So we have the 5-year plan, we have the annual action plan, we have the CAPER report, the fair housing plan, we have a citizen participation plan, and currently we're working on the climate change and resiliency plan. So it could be difficult.
Wasn't a position, because it was you, Lily, and then yourself, was your past position eliminated?
Lily's position was eliminated.
Okay, Lily's position was eliminated. So the workload has actually become greater for the remaining individuals than it was prior.
I'm also doing the project manager. Pam, she is learning as much as she can. We still have that neighborhood initiative with the youth council and the nonprofits and all of the other tasks that she does, but it can be difficult.
Doing a whole lot more with a whole lot less, actually.
Yes.
So if you could wave a magic wand right now, what would you be in need of?
Wish would be to have a neighborhood improvement services manager so that we could bridge that gap and make sure that all of the programs and compliance issues that we come up, the city will not be at risk as far as audit and having any issues with HUD in the future.
And I know at one time, you were going to the city of Goldsboro to basically give guidance to the neighborhood improvement director on CDBG funding. Are you still going to various sister cities and lending your knowledge and expertise?
We call it a network of professionals where we can reach out and bounce off questions with each other. We can get input with each other. We go to conferences to get input. As far as Goldsboro, we still converse with each other. I still help out as much as I can because that person, she is still, trying to, gain her ground as far as getting her programs up to par and, according to what HUD needs it to be. So she has some challenges, but she is making grounds.
And you're, okay.
Thank you, Tracy. We need to stay on topic here. This is going beyond what the issue is at hand. So, Mr. Carter, do we need a consensus here, or do we need a formal vote on this?
Consensus would be adequate, Mayor.
All those that agree that we send a letter acknowledging the grant, that's what you need. Is that not correct? Is everybody good with that?
Yes.
Okay, good enough. That's what we're going to do then. Okay. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to our reports, unless I'm missing something here. We good?
Very good.
Okay. All right, let's see. Mr. Warden.
Proud to be here, sir. No report.
Councilwoman Edwards.
Well, we're reaching into the summer season now, so I'll just say happy 4th of July to everyone in the room and everyone who's watching. Stay safe this summer. Be storm prepared because we're heading toward that season as well. Enjoy your 4th of July.
Dr. Washington.
Civic Affairs Committee, thank you, Ms. Edwards, for leading that. Had a wonderful observance for Juneteenth at the Onslow County Consolidated Health Building, the City of Jacksonville, and as well as the Onslow County Governmental Office. And I do believe the Onslow County will be celebrating Juneteenth on the 24th. So if you're able to make that celebration, please do.
Where's it at?
Where is it? Is it Onslow Pines?
I believe so.
I think it's at Onslow Pines from 1 to 6, I do believe. And the last comment that I want to make is to my illustrious mayor, Sammy Phillips, who was gracious enough to, for my students that I teach the nurse aid program to at Lejeune High School. The program had been on hiatus, suspension, not because of any demerits, but because of the negative effects of the COVID pandemic. So after 3 years of being in hiatus status, my program, I was able to bring the program back and had 8 young ladies, military-connected students, so their mothers and fathers are active duty, but at the end of the school year, they all took the National Nurse Aid exam, and each one of them scored a perfect score of 100%. So Mayor Phillips wrote a letter of commendations for my students, and they just feel like they won the lottery. So not many elected officials would take the time to acknowledge adults, let alone high school students. So we're talking about young ladies, 17 and 18 years old, that have a letter from the mayor of the city of Jacksonville, although they live on Camp Lejeune. So I just want to say thank you so very much on behalf of my students for doing that for them. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your part in their future. And, you know, that's going to travel with them throughout their life. Thank you very much. Mr. Jackson.
On Saturday, I attended a Juneteenth commemoration. A lot of different individuals came out and enjoyed themselves. People shared their talents, speaking on things of the past. It was kind of surreal for me to be in that area because it's part of my family that was in that area, and then the library actually had pictures out showing families, and I saw one of my descendants up there that was actually in the Navy during the Civil War, so that was real interesting. Also, Mumford Point Marine Association gave out 17 scholarships to young people. I can't remember the exact date, maybe around June 24th or something of that nature. So that was a great thing as well. And in light of Juneteenth, I saw Ms. Marzette. She offered a statement concerning issues where we need to gain more understanding about each other. And only through communication and learning can we see who we are as people, acknowledging each other. We have to continue to grow in those ways. We're still coming short, but we have to learn to work together. Sometimes we got to do out-of-the-box things to go through that process of that education. So, Mr. Ray, under your leadership, hopefully we can go forward in gaining understanding and being trained in the right direction. I know we have one training thus far, so hopefully we can do the right thing as a community to better understand each other.
Mr. Sosa.
I'm just happy to be here. Also, just like to give a thanks to Chief Tallman and his crowd last night. One of my neighbors needed the fire department, and they were able to get out there extremely fast, take care of the matter that could have made a huge, issue, and they took care of it very quickly. The neighbor was very excited, very happy that they took care of that. So thank you. Please pass that along from all of us. And thank you. I think the whole thing, they got out there and taken care of it within 30, 35 minutes, I think. So very impressed. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Bittner.
Yeah, lest you forget that Mr. Warden and I are your representatives on Onwassa, and last week we adopted the Onwassa budget for the year, and I want to point out something noteworthy about that budget was the inclusion of $37.5 million for the acquisition of the Ploris utility operation, which should help not only continue to keep pace with the growth of Onslow County, but also bodes well for our partnership with Onwassa on other projects. That's all I have.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Mr. Wright.
Mayor, before I do our one city, I do want to mention we are planning on having our July 18th meeting. And so just want to put that out there. We had originally thought that we may not have to have that meeting just based on the scheduling. But as I mentioned earlier, CJ has a request that may come to fruition, and there's a couple planning items as well. So I just want you to put that out there. City clerk will follow up with council just to make sure we have everything schedule-wise, but just want to point that out.
You need some music to go along with it.
If you have some good music, Mayor, I'd appreciate it. As Mr. Jackson pointed out, we did have our Juneteenth observances throughout the weekend. This right here occurred in this room on Friday. You will see Ms. Edwards and you'll see Dr. Washington, but we were able to bring in members of the Civic Affairs Committee into this room and to go through a history of what Juneteenth is, which was very well presented from start to finish. We started with one council member, we finished with the other, and I don't think it'd be any better than that. And then they took the show on the road and they visited multiple facilities throughout the county. Crystal Blockett, our very own, very talented member of our team, sang "Lift Every Voice and Sing." And I just say it again, this is the second time in about a month that I've talked about Crystal's voice. That's just one of her talents, but what a way to deliver a message than having Crystal
to be present and be a member of our team. I would say, Mayor, if we could have her here singing a song at every council meeting, I'll give my words and my seat away to Crystal, because she is beyond talented, not just in her God-given talents, but just in her person. And that's a beautiful thing. And for the event, you guys did an excellent job of getting the right person to deliver a message. So I volunteered to sing, and Miss Edwards said, no, thank you. But maybe next year we can try out. These are members of our Civic Affairs Committee, which I say again, they did an awesome job to kick off the weekend. As Mr. Jackson pointed out, we also had some events down in Georgetown, the Georgetown Parade. It shifted from New Bridge Street, not just because of the project that we're doing on New Bridge, but because of the community. And we wanted to have the event in the community, which was amazing. I think you're going to see more and more activity inside of Georgetown. And I think that's beautiful in the fact that our neighborhoods deserve the opportunity to celebrate what they bring to our overall community. That is one city. That's our community in action and being present for an event. It's fantastic. Matching outfits just make us all feel a little better. And I just think that the overall input from the community is what makes our events special. Then on Saturday, General Al Gray had his 90th birthday celebration.
95th.
You see,
95th.
95th. I've been celebrating his 90th for the whole year, and now it's 95. So 95th birthday celebration. It's actually on my sheet. City clerk gave me 95, but I don't read well, apparently. What a great occasion here in Jacksonville for us to be. You see, Senator Lazar was there. The mayor was there. Multiple members. There's Mr. Jackson. Also present, multiple members of our team throughout, but this occurred here in Jacksonville, and that's because that's what General Gray wanted to happen. He wanted us to be here and be active throughout the celebration. So very exciting to have members of the community here, but more importantly, because we brought multiple members of this country together in Jacksonville for the occasion. And I think that's part of the beauty of what we can do in the future as we're looking at multiple projects that we're trying to do, partnering with the county, with the TDA, with the Museum of the Marine. We can do different events here in Jacksonville that really celebrates who we are and what we appreciate here in our community. The last thing I've got for you, Mayor, is Oyster Highway Phase 3. If you didn't have enough celebration throughout the week, you'll see that we were placing new reef locations out into the river, and you'll see members of our team planting these out and about. It says it's about from a half acre to an acre in size in that area, but if you go out into the bay, you're going to see multiple locations where we're still going through recovery processes to make sure that the natural and the vegetation and the wildlife are all active throughout the area. You'll see Pat Donovan Brandenburg there doing her thing, and what we appreciate, the fact of Pat is an awesome leader for us, right? She takes the initiative and she's pushing it, and so she makes sure that we're maintaining this thing that is unique to us. As we've said before, it doesn't happen anywhere else in the United States, but we are not only recapturing our waterway, we're also making sure that it lasts, that it's fruitful, that when you go out into the water, it's a vibrant marine wildlife habitat. And so we're very excited for all that we have going on here in our city. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you, Josh. Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Carter.
thank you. Mr. Sewell spoke to you tonight about the YMCA pool. The county will be having a county commissioners meeting tomorrow night, because they usually would have it on Monday, but with Juneteenth celebration and federal holiday, it's tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. At that time, they will take up the YMCA pool request. I talked to Mr. Sewell. I did send an email to Mr. Irwin, but I got no response as to when the school board will take it forward. They do have a scheduled meeting for Thursday, June the 29th. And I think he and I both presume at that time they will be taking it forward. So it's up to council at this point to meet that deadline as to when you would want to schedule a special meeting to consider the request. I did send to council the document that the county commissioners will be considering tomorrow evening. One of them, as you saw, had both names on it, the city and the county, that Mr. DeSelms and I have worked together. I've taken his agreement and modified it somewhat, and if the county commissioners approve it tomorrow night, I'll be sending that out to council and to Mr. Sewell, so he'll know what some of the considerations the city might want to talk about. But we need to set a special meeting. If you want to do it after the school board, then that means you'll need to do it on June 30th, that Friday at some time. If you want to do it before, then that would be fine anytime after tomorrow.
What is the advertising requirement on that?
A special meeting's 48 hours.
Mr. Mayor, I will be out of town next week, but I will be back Thursday evening. I would prefer to be here for the vote, if council would be willing to do it Friday, if that's convenient for everybody else.
Which Friday? 29th.
The 30th.
I won't be here.
All right, let me ask you this.
We talking about July or June?
June the 30th. Friday the 30th.
Be in a board meeting in Asheville. I can't do it.
And it will be a one-item agenda, and you can set it any time that you feel.
And the school board's not going to meet until the 30th?
The 29th.
29th, I mean, excuse me, 29th.
That's unless they do something special, but we don't anticipate that, do we, Mr. Sewell? You haven't been told of that. I haven't either.
Originally, Mr. Ray, you talked about July, I think it was the 19th, originally.
That's when the county.
18th meeting, that's the regular scheduled council meeting.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I'll be at an NLC meeting on that night, so I won't be able to attend.
Do we have, I know we've said, in essence, we wanted to wait to see what the school board did, but is it possible to act after whatever the county does tomorrow night? I mean, is that possible, or is that something the council would want to entertain?
It's a matter of getting us in one place physically, I believe.
I mean, if 48 hours would put us Friday, this Friday. No, nobody said this Friday was bad, did they?
Friday.
You'll
I won't
be
able to.
I can do Friday.
What about Thursday?
Mr. Jackson saying no, I
I can't do
believe.
Friday either.
It's a scheduling issue. It's the problem.
Okay.
And Dr. Washington, you had indicated you might be out of town some.
When are you
time
going to be
during
gone,
this
Angela?
Well, actually, I'm going to be gone I'll be gone July 19th.
Well, we're not going to do it in July.
Yeah. And then this week, well, Thursday, I'll be out of town until
So just-
Sunday.
Just Thursday, after Thursday, you'll be gone. Okay,
And I'll be back on the 25th.
on the 25th. Mm-hmm. So how about the 26th,
That
Out of
Monday?
town.
of Monday? No,
I'm out of town.
you're out of town.
Be back that Thursday, the 20, whatever that date is, 29th.
If Mr. Jackson cannot be here either Friday, is
Right.
that correct, Mr. Jackson?
That's true.
How about the 28th?
Seventh.
Do we have the documentation we need to take action now?
No, you can't do that now. 28th, what about the 28th, Wednesday, the 28th?
I think I'm traveling that.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Warden is going to be out the 26th to the 29th.
Okay.
Mr. Jackson's not going to be available either the 23rd or the 30th. I would suggest, since he's not going to be available, to do it on the 30th, and then you have the benefit of both decisions by the Board of Education and the county commissioners. Since Mr. Jackson can't be here for either one of those Fridays, and Mr. Warden can't be here for the whole week up to that time.
But 30th it is then, right?
The 30th of July?
Give a time, we'll get the
June.
notice out.
June.
June, 30th of June.
Okay.
What time would you like to set it, Mayor and Council?
Whatever time's convenient to everybody else. I got a thing at 6 that night. Other than that, it's one item agenda, so if you want to do it at 5 o'clock, that's fine. 5 work for everybody?
Fine with
Why don't
me.
we set it at 4, Mayor?
4?
This is Friday afternoon.
I can't.
No, I thought,
Not keep staff
the
waiting.
30th is on a Thursday.
No, sir.
No, it's a
No, sir,
Friday.
it's a
What
Friday.
about- what
And it
about-
can't be earlier?
It could, depending on whether you want to know
I'm in
what
the
the
wrong
school
year.
board does or
Excuse
doesn't.
me.
Tell you in a month, a year.
Again, the principle
Just some of
being
that
that
music
all
came up.
of these 3 units of government, plus the state legislature, all have to agree to the concept and move forward. So it's up to council.
June 30th works fine for me for any time of the day, so.
What is the
And do it
decision that we
earlier,
have
it
to
would be
wait for the
wonderful.
county to approve it?
What time would you like to, Dr. Washington?
9, 10?
Yeah.
We have to wait for the county? Is that what that-
9.
Yeah. Let's hit it for 9.
9 o'clock on the 30th,
Council chambers.
Got to get up and get dressed.
here at this spot. Are you good with that, Mr. Warden?
By 9 o'clock.
He said June 30th.
9 o'clock at night?
No,
be there.
because it's on a Friday.
I'll be here on the Friday before that, so either.
It's on a
either
Do you
Friday.
one
have
of
any
those.
objection to that, Mr. Warden?
I'm not wild about it, but I can live with it.
So that will be breakfast, Miss Marshburn, instead of sandwiches.
Okay. Mr. Jackson won't be able to be here. I want to bring him today.
Can
But
he
again-
tap in on a
I
Zoom
could hear it,
meeting?
right? Well,
Well,
that late, maybe.
yeah, I
Just
don't
know
know.
it's in the morning.
You can hear it. It'll be on.
He can hear, he just can't, he can't participate in it.
It
I'll
can't
try.
do
I'll
electronic
step
meetings
out.
after the emergency order was done away with. So that, now the legislature is considering.
Can he give his proxy?
When you coming
Okay.
back?
Thursday, the
Thursday
29th.
night.
That's what, Martin.
9 o'clock on Friday, the 30th. We will send the proper notices out.
Okay.
I want to ask for ISD.
That's my report, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
All right, so that's settled, I think. Okay. Anybody got anything else? With that said, all right, let's entertain a motion to
Move
adjourn.
we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Pink Floyd. I always